how to solve any parenting problem with the 3D method, the mindset shift that changes everything in this video. I want to talk about how to solve any parenting problem by following one simple formula. This is going to be the most important video that you watch all year long because it is literally going to change your life. If you apply what we're about to cover, I was in your shoes not too long ago. My kids were out of control. My wife and I were at our wits' end trying to figure out how to get through to our kids. We tried everything from yelling to spanking, rewards, and timeouts. Nothing seemed to work. They just kept doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And then something changed for me. Something clicked and I figured out how to solve any behavioral or emotional issue my kids were having. In fact, this method has worked so well that I have even had to raise my voice to correct my kids in over 6 months. And my relationship with my children is better than ever before. So here are the 3 steps of the 3D formula to solve any parenting problem. Step number 1, detect the pattern. This means that you need to first become aware of the problem behavior. In order to do this, you need to start paying attention. You need to put your phone down and really observe what your kids are doing. For example, every time I go into the kitchen to grab a snack, my 4-year-old daughter tries to climb up on the couch. Now, I can pretend like it's no big deal and let her climb on the counters, but that's probably not the best idea. Or I can acknowledge that this is a dangerous behavior that needs to be addressed. As parents, we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we should follow our child's lead, that they should explore and do whatever they feel like doing whenever they feel like doing it. But when does this exploration cross the line from healthy development to harmful and toxic behavior? As parents, we have to make this determination. We have to decide what behaviors are okay and which ones are not. And we have to take action accordingly. Now, the key thing here is that you need to pay attention to the warning signs. You need to be on the lookout for these dangerous behaviors, because if left unchecked, they will only get worse with time. It is our job as parents to step in and redirect these behaviors before they cause harm to anyone. A lot of times, you'll see these dangerous behaviors happen repeatedly. That's why step 1 of the 3D formula is called detect the pattern. As you start to pay closer attention, you'll start to notice patterns in your child's behavior. Once you've detected these patterns, once you've pinpointed exactly what behaviors need to be addressed, it's time to move on to step number 2. Step number 2, define the real root cause. Now that you've identified the problem behavior, you need to dig deeper and figure out why your child is acting this way. What is the underlying cause of the behavior? Is it because they're bored? Are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they seeking attention? Are they trying to exert independence? A lot of parents skip this step and go straight to the punishment. But if you want to be an effective parent, you can't do that. You need to understand why your child is acting this way in order to address the root cause of the problem. For example, let's say your child is hitting other kids at school. Instead of automatically assuming that they read just a bully and sending them to their room for 15 minutes, try to understand why they're hitting in the first place. Are they frustrated that they don't know how to express their emotions? Are they tired? Are they feeling left out? Once you understand the root cause of the behavior, you'll be able to address it in a more meaningful way. You can teach your child how to express their frustration in a more appropriate way. You can help them develop social skills so they don't feel left out. You can make sure they get enough rest. These are all things that will be much more effective than simply punishing them for their behavior. Step number 3, direct the solution with calm, age-appropriate, firm direction. Now that you've identified the problem behavior and the root cause of that behavior, it's time to take action. You need to direct your child towards a solution. But before we go into the actual solution part, I want to say this. If you've watched my other videos, you've heard me say again and again that as parents, we need to stay calm. When we're calm, we're able to think more clearly and effectively. When we're calm, we're able to communicate better with our kids. When we're calm, we're able to set better boundaries. Now, I know this is easier said than done, especially in those moments when our kids are misbehaving and we're feeling frustrated. But I want you to remember this quote: when you are angry, you lose half your brain. In other words, when we're angry, we're not thinking clearly. We're not able to solve problems effectively. There's an old saying that goes, never interrupt your child's discipline. And there's a reason why this saying exists. When kids misbehave, they need consequences. They need to experience the natural results of their actions. This helps them learn from their mistakes and become better people. On the other hand, when we come in and rescue our kids all the time, we're robbing them of this valuable learning opportunity. We're essentially telling them that they do and need to worry about the consequences of their actions, because mom or dad will always be there to save them. This is not what we want to do. So what's the solution? How do we stop our kids from misbehaving without resorting to anger or force? Well, it starts with setting clear expectations. Our kids need to know what is expected of them at all times. This might seem obvious, but it's actually something that most parents don't do. Think about it. If you were asked to perform a task that you've never been trained on, you would probably want some clear instructions. The same is true for our kids. If we want them to behave in a certain way, we need to make sure they understand what that behavior is. This is why it's so important to be calm when giving directions. If we're calm, our kids are more likely to listen to us. They're more likely to take our directions and reflect on them. They're more likely to internalize our expectations. I want you to remember this. Your child's brain is still developing. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and rational thought, is not fully developed until around the age of 25. This means that your child is still learning how to think before they act. They need your guidance and support in order to develop these critical thinking skills. So the next time your child misbehaves, I want you to take a deep breath and remain calm. Then give them clear, concise directions on how to behave appropriately. Be firm but kind, and make sure they understand that you expect them to follow your directions. You may be wondering, how firm do I need to be? How do I make sure my directions are clear? Well, I can't give you a one-size-fits-all answer to that question. It depends on the age of your child, their temperament, and the severity of the situation. However, I can give you a general guideline. You need to be firm enough that your child understands that you're serious. You can't be wishy-washy or vague when giving direction. Otherwise, your child will get confused or disobedient, right? For example, if your child is throwing a tantrum in the middle of the grocery store, you need to be firm enough to tell them that if they don't stop screaming, they're going to lose their favorite toy. Yes, their toy. On the other hand, if your child is refusing to clean their room, you might be firm enough to tell them that they watch TV until their room is clean. The key is to be age-appropriate in your firmness. You need to be firm enough to get your point across. But you don't want to be so harsh that you damage your relationship with your child. Let me tell you a story about how I use this method with my 4-year-old daughter. My wife and I were getting ready to go out for the evening, and we asked our daughter if she could get dressed in her new dress that we bought her. She refused and started throwing a tantrum. So I calmly told her that if she didn't get dressed in her new dress, she wouldn't be able to come with us. I was firm, but I wasn't angry. And guess what? She got dressed without any further fuss. That's the power of the 3D formula. When you detect a pattern of negative behavior, define the root cause of that behavior and direct your child towards a solution with calm, age-appropriate firmness. You will see a dramatic improvement in their behavior. I want you to try this method out for yourself. I want you to use it for the next week, and then come back and leave me a comment below with your results. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. And if you want even more tips on how to be a great parent, be sure to check out the rest of my content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.